Hi 504. It's Jonathan. I'm in my classroom at Clarkson, one of my classrooms on Clarkson. It's Saturday morning. I apologize for the late post. It's been a crazy week. We had parent-teacher conferences at Clarkson on Tuesday and Thursday evening. It was my birthday this week, so we had a family get together for dinner. I proposed to my girlfriend. It's just a lot on my plate. So I'm getting into this now, and I'm using Screencast-O-Matic. One of the things I'm going to talk about this week is this lifelong learning aspect of the book. So this is my effort to become a better lifelong learner. I've never done a screencast before. I've never talked to a webcam, and this is my first try. So this actually isn't my first try. I've recorded this video literally dozens of times, and I'm not happy with the way I present myself. I have my ideas written down, and my thoughts seem coherent, but then when it comes time to record, I talk too fast, or I say or my thoughts may not be as coherent as I want them to be. So this is, if you're watching this is the product of many, many hours. It's not the 15 minutes or whatever the video runs that you see. I worked on this for days now, and it's been challenging. So periodically I'm going to pause it like this, just like that, to collect my thoughts, and this isn't editable like a Word document is, so I don't want to get halfway through it and screw it up. So let's go into the text. I will be choosing to use Exploration 3 to kind of focus my discussion, the game-based learning. And I'm going to tie this to, I thought, the reading was good, but there were 3 points, especially in Chapter 10, that I want to talk about: the rethinking learning, rethinking motivation, and rethinking what is important to learn. I'm going to try to tie these all to game-based learning, starting with rethinking learning. So Collins and Halverson see lifelong learning as the model of future education. They see it as being required of all people for careers in the future. It seems that's the most important. They talk about how our parents worked these jobs. They went to school for some period of time, learned these skills, got a job, and they worked that job till they were done working. And they said that's not going to be the case for our kids, or possibly, probably even for us. We may be working many jobs where this the schooling that we've gotten to get these jobs that provide this kind of like bank account of knowledge with which we just withdraw to use for our jobs, that's not going to be sufficient if we're kind of career hopping. Each set of jobs is going to require a different set of knowledge and skills, and so the real skill will come from this lifelong learning and developing this ability to learn. That's the real skill that school should provide. And in becoming lifelong learners, you're gaining the skills, so when you get a new job, you're capable of learning whatever it is for that new job. And then you'll learn a little bit, you'll work, and then when you quit that job or whatever, you move to the next job, you'll have to learn again, work for a while, learn again, work for a while. So this is how they see the future. They see us moving away from traditional schools. One of the things that I thought interesting, they talked about, up to middle school, it'll be pretty much the same. They'll learn whatever. But, when they're about 14, they'll get jobs, and those jobs, well, I don't know what they'll look like. But they'll work for a while, come back and learn, work for a while. And I think they could be really cool. I don't know what sort of jobs 14-year-olds were getting. Right now it seems like a lot of them work at grocery stores or fast food, and that's fine. You learn valuable skills there. But for some of those ambitious ones, I don't know, are we going to put them in the cyclotron or Michigan State or a chemistry lab with tens of thousands of dollars in equipment? So it'll be interesting if that happens, to see how it kind of manifests itself. I think it's an interesting idea. And one of the things I wanted to kind of quote from the book too is this idea of what if we don't hop on board with these changes in technology? What if we don't hop on board with this lifelong learning kind of model of school? And they say it's at the very about middle of page 131, the very end of the Rethinking Learning. They say technologies will leach critical learning resources, such as student motivation, attention, and resources out of the education system. So these the games on the internet, the internet learning programs, they're the ones that's going to get the kids' attentions. They're motivated when they participate in those. And more scary for teachers, the resource like monies, the funding will be directed towards those. So how does this relate to game-based education? Well, I think the lifelong learning skills that are developed through different games are useful in life and their model of learning. Kids don't seem to play the same games forever, so each game can kind of provide new skills, and each new set of skills, if you're learning through all these games how the game works, each one of those provides a practice in learning new things. So, furthermore, the games are engaging. The kids are motivated to play them. That's going to be my next topic, rethinking motivation. But the engagement factor is one that I've been wrestling with for a long time, trying to get my kids engaged in my classes. And I think I see these games that the kids play that have no real value, but the kids are incredibly engaged. I think like Candy Crush, or I even saw the kids play this game where they were walking a daddy long leg thing. It was, you just walk and you try to make sure it doesn't fall over, and you just walk across the street. It's insane. They really invested themselves in it though. So if we can take what those games have to offer and kind of hybridize them with what school has to offer, giving them skills that will be valuable for their future, that's definitely the way we have to go, and that's the way it looks like things are going to go. So we need to hop on board. And I wanted to talk about now rethinking motivation. They put a quote here, which I highlighted in the book too, and I'm glad that they thought it was important, that the facilitators, to put it in their description here. But the current school system does not help students develop intrinsic motivation to learn, which I'm kind of bummed about that, because I feel like I have an intrinsic motivation to learn. I left the school system. I'm feeling pretty good about it. But I've seen, as a teacher, not everyone enjoyed mathematics or science or any class as much as I do. They don't, for a number of reasons. So there's a quote on top of page 132 that said, in order to produce a generation of people who seek out learners need to be given more control over their learning. And I think this is, again, tying back to game-based learning. I think kids have a lot of flexibility in the types of games they play and what they're interested in doing. In the book, they talked about Civilization, they talked about World of Warcraft, they talked about, there are other games that they talked about as well. But this engagement and motivation factor, the games really seem to highlight this and bring it out in students well. So I don't know that necessarily all these games that the kids are playing now, what they're teaching is valuable. I think there are definitely some values that they get from the games. World of Warcraft, you have to collaborate. You actually have to do quite a bit of work to participate in these fights, these battles. There's robust economy on World of Warcraft. I actually used to play. I don't know if I ever gave you the impression that I'm cool. This should kind of settle the issue, but I used to play this game many years ago, and there's a very rich economy in the game. Although fictional, it seems to follow what I know of economics, supply and demand, and it really relates well to real life in some ways, but perhaps not as much in others. I teach core areas like chemistry, physics, and math. I don't know what sort of chemistry, physics, or math skills or applications were on there. Some basic accounting perhaps in the auction house, but yeah. So there was a lot going on there with games. Last thing I wanted to talk about was rethinking what is important to learn. And this has been kind of this existential crisis I've been going through for the past several years. I teach AP Physics, which is this amazing, awesome, very content-rich course with a bunch of kids that are very awesome at school and are self-motivated and want to learn this stuff. And then right now I'm teaching this environmental chemistry class. I've taught this for the last couple of years, which is the lowest level science class offered in the school. If you're not already planning on advancing beyond the requirements in science, you pretty much have to take this course. So I get very unmotivated students who effortfully try not to learn, it seems like. And so I always, when designing my lessons, and I don't know how successful I've been at this, but I'm always evaluating what is it that I really want them to learn. What will they really need in the future, and whatever jobs they do, which almost certainly will not be in the field of science. What do I want them to take away? And Collins and Halverson talk about a less emphasis on content. If and this more learning, the skill of learning to learn. So if I could teach them, I think what I'm trying to do, if I can teach them to do chemistry in some way, it's not important that they maybe know all the facts about ions and solubility or whatever we're doing. But if I can just teach them like how to do it, and if I could show them chemistry, perhaps later in life when they encounter chemistry, they'll have some sort of foundation on which, they might not know exactly what to do, but perhaps, hopefully, they could go through some sort of process of gaining the knowledge. They talked about earlier in the text just in time versus just in case learning. They're not going to have the just in case learning, but maybe they'll have more skills to access the just in time learning. Go to the internet, get the answers they need, and know what it means. So they talk in that section too. I loved how they kind of bashed core knowledge as being the trivium from the Middle Ages, and that's where the word trivia comes from, and it's trivial now. So there's also a math example too, which I found fascinating, and this is something I think every math teacher has struggled with at some point about do the kids really need to know how to manipulate equations, how to do math in a very traditional way? All the programs are out there right now. We don't let them use their phones on tests because we know they could just type in whatever we want them to do and get an answer. So why do we need to teach them those skills if they're already out there? And I'm torn on this. I don't know how I feel. I think doing math is in the spirit of what Collins and Halverson are thinking. We're learning critical thinking skills. There's a set of rules with which you have to manipulate an equation, to map out a function, to interpret it. I think these things are valuable. The actual content itself, the math content, I think maybe they're right. Maybe they don't need those skills. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up with what did I take away from the book? And part of me is sad to see that schools may be an end, or at least the Collins and Halverson see it that way, that the days of schools are kind of numbered. But one of the things, here's some positive things I took away from the book. Technology has a real edge in meeting the needs of kids. I think, I have this table up. This was the link provided by the facilitators. You look, game-based learning is all the check marks here. It's one-on-one, it's engaging, provides immediate feedback. These are things lacking in public schools and lacking in the model of one teacher for 32 kids, or 34 as I have in some classes. The game-based learning and technology have to offer the kids. So, and this site here, it's promoting game-based learning. I think there are a couple boxes on here that perhaps could be on there but aren't. Things like, human interaction or citizenship. These things might not be checked off for game-based learning, but nonetheless, it's good. And so another thing I took away from this book is that if schools don't hop on board with technology, somebody else will. And those people will be the futures of schools. Like I said, Collins and Halverson see the days of school as being over. They had a quote. Oh, I hope I bookmarked it. I remember it. Oh, no. Well, I'm going to pause it and find this quote. Okay, I found it. The quote was on page 142, and it was at the bottom of the last paragraph. It said, "We are not going to fix education by fixing the schools. They have served us well in the past, but they are a 19th century invention trying to cope with a 21st century society." And, so I'm still pro-school. Like I said, I love this place. I want the kids to love it as much as I do, but there are some things that need to be changed. And I think incorporating technology, incorporating game-based learning, this sort of engagement that it provides, we can hopefully hybridize the two. But if it's not, that's all right. I'm a good learner. I'll find a new career and it'll be fine. But last thing I wanted to say, and I'm about out of time on my 15-minute screencast here, but we, teachers, parents, communities, and the entire world have a real opportunity to positively change education. Collins and Halverson say this is a critical time in education. Just like when Horace Mann was, late 19th century, this is a chance that we have to change it. And so as educators, we have to make sure that we get involved in the discussion and make the changes that we think are the best for the students and for the future, for the world. So thank you for listening to my podcast, my screencast. I hope it went well. Please provide any critical feedback that you want. But I learned a lot. This was the most challenging week I think I did, and I think it was because of the format. So thank you again, and I'll see you online.